connecting point. I am Dr. Marcy, your facilitator for this discussion today. This is where creators connect to inspire, share their ideas and stories, and change the world through raw and unedited talk. And today I am here with a friend of mine from, Lord have mercy, it's so many of us doing great things. Y'all know what I'm about to say. MBC, Morris Brown College, yes. Listen, I guess they said she got so many gifts from Morris Brown, but see, that's how we are. We don't die, we multiply.
Multiply, keep growing, we can't die.
We keep growing. But anyway, the connecting point here is, first of all, this is Ernest, Benson. And yes, we went to dear old Morris Brown together. That's our connecting point. And he is a licensed counselor.
Hello, everybody.
So we're gonna delve into some stuff today. I've been waiting on this conversation. I just told him, I listen, there's so much going on. We got to really talk about some things. So Ernest, will you please let the audience know where you're from and where you are now?
Okay. I am originally from Birmingham, Alabama. I've been in Atlanta since going to Morris Brown, singing the choir at Morris Brown under Glenn Halsey, and made a lot of friends, great people. Met a lot of great people in Alabama, in Morris Brown as well. So currently, I'm a licensed professional counselor. I practice in Fulton County, Douglas County, DeKalb, and I currently live in Powder Springs. Did I say that?
Yeah.
All right. My company is ilifecounseling.org. That is ilifecounseling.org. It's like iPhone, iLife. And it stands for Infinite Life Counseling. And for me, it's Infinite Life Counseling. We can all have infinite life, but we have to really, really be intentional and open about talking about the finite details of your life, like the small details that got you to this point. Trauma, your upbringing, your background, your parents, your family, all of those things makes us who we are. So, and those life experiences, and those lived experiences, they create trauma, a variety of things that need to be talked about because it shapes who you are. Sometimes at a point as an adult, you get to a point where some of the things that you're used to, some of the things that you know, may not be working anymore. So you have to go back and actually kind of have some conversations and kind of look at some things, maybe change your perspective. And then therefore you can move forward with a better and more enhanced life.
Okay. So if I am a patient or a client, that's how y'all say client.
Correct.
Not patient.
Yes, not patient.
patient need to go to.
They're in the hospital. Well, and I come from a hospital background. Correct. But so
if I came to you as a client, you would first delve into my historical background.
Correct. And it's called a behavioral health assessment. So I'm going to talk about your background. I'm going to talk about your family background, your maternal family, your paternal family. I'm going to talk about if there is a history of mental health on either side. Because a lot of things in terms of mental health could be genetic. So we need to know your genetic makeup. So did your grandmother have any type of depression? Did she have schizophrenia? Did you see her in a position where she had anxiety or she didn't know how to cope with things or deal with things or make decisions? So then some of those things can be persistent in your life as well. So
do you see many clients who really don't know the history? Because and I'll say this, in African-American communities, oftentimes it was not discussed.
It wasn't discussed.
That, Brother Joe might have a little issue.
Right. We know something wrong with Brother Joe, but we don't know exactly what's wrong.
But it wasn't talked about.
Right. They ain't talked about it. They just swept under the rug.
How do you, do clients come in like, nah, nobody has an issue in my family, not,
Right. But they don't talk about it. And they don't know if they were on medication or not. They knew something was wrong. They don't know if they were on medication for it. So those are the deep conversations that we have to have. And those are the finite details that I'm looking for in order to create a treatment plan and know how to kind of provide services for you. And those are the things that you got to talk about. And sometimes even maybe go back and ask, your mother or ask a parent,
Mhm.
even to the point of this. With absentee fathers, they may not even know the history on their paternal side because the father
Mm.
wasn't around. So they may know one
Right.
aunt, they may know one aunt, but they may not know anyone else on that side of the family. So there are a lot of different variables, but being willing, if you're willing to talk, and through listening and doing some assessments and trauma assessments, we can come into a solution together. And that's the whole point of therapy. It's not you come in and I tell you what to do and tell you exactly what to go back and do and give you, like a recipe and you'll be fixed. That's not how it really works. So you have to come in open, honest, willing to do some work, willing to talk.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to listen, and at the same time, we can come with solutions together.
So I would say a person in your position has to have a lot of patience, gentleness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can
Empathic
imagine.
listening. Yes. Yeah.
Good listener, good communicator. Now,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a therapist at school. Lord have mercy.
You are. But honestly, right, a lot of times the teacher, kids trust you, so they'll tell you information. They'll give you information that they won't give anybody else.
Yeah.
And you guys have a multiple of roles. You might be the parent, you might be the therapist, you might be the friend, the comforter. Like, you guys do a lot of different things. So, kudos to teachers, and I'm an advocate for getting y'all more pay because y'all deserve it.
I know, because you got to teach in your household.
Exactly. So
my sister Kenyatta.
Yeah. And the thing is, you're developing our future. You're developing our future leaders. So it takes a lot.
Yeah, and since we're talking about teachers and it taking a lot, what can teachers do? Let's say that, because a lot of my colleagues, they are under tremendous stress. And I'm hearing anxiety, those type of words have been thrown around. And it's mainly because of we're going back into a setting where we've been virtual for some time.
Almost 2 years.
We're still in a pandemic.
Correct.
And we don't know exactly what this is going to pan out to be. We have students in our classroom. Some districts, teachers have no idea who's sitting in their room, right, and who has COVID, who does not. Right. I'm fortunate enough to be in a district where they're doing surveillance testing twice a week. So we do get some inkling of who may be in the building with COVID. But let's think about those who have no idea, and they have to wake up every single morning with this thought of, am I going to bring something home to my family today?
Right.
I had a friend over the summer who came to visit me, and my heart just went out to her because she says, I just don't know. We're going into the building. Yeah. We have no protection.
No protection.
No protection at all. We have to use our thermometers to scan children as they come in. And we all know, let's be real, temperature is really not going to tell you anything about COVID. Listen, you can take temperatures all day long. They might not have a temperature.
Right.
So her thought was, I'm going to work every day, and then I got to come home to my family.
Right.
So how have you been able to deal with that? Have you had many teachers come and visit you with anxiety?
Not teachers per se, but I do understand from talking to my wife and her colleagues, the anxiety that they have. Paulding County was probably the first county to go back. Well, Paulding, Cherokee,
one of them.
They went back last September, 2020 September. So it was really, really prevalent in our community, and just understanding in two things: dealing with it on a day-to-day basis and not knowing who's in the room with COVID, and them not requiring or mandating testing, not mandating masks, not mandating anything. It gave a lot of teachers the feeling of that they aren't cared about.
Right.
The system doesn't care about us. They're not willing to protect us because they just want to make sure the kids are coming back to school. That's one thing. Then it puts you in a position you wondering, like, do I have to change my career, something that I really enjoy doing, because they're not putting me first or considering my well-being, the well-being of myself or my family. So
Right.
It's very, very anxiety producing. Like COVID within itself, like this pandemic, to not know how to get it, to know how it's contracted, it's in the air, it's airborne. You don't know, you can't run from it.
No.
How do you fight an enemy you can't see?
Right.
You can see an enemy. So like it produces anxiety just on that alone. So in you trying to protect yourself, your loved ones, then now you're being forced into a scenario where you can't protect yourself. The unfortunately, the powers that be aren't putting anything in place to help protect you or mandating that people get vaccinated or people wear masks. So there is a lot of anxiety, man, regarding that. So it's very uncertain and it's very personal.
But Ernest, one thing that I've had to do is for myself, I can't watch too much news.
No.
That's number one.
That's overstimulating.
Yes. And I can't talk to people who are just over the top, talking about it all the time. I cut my conversations real short, not meaning any harm, but I don't need to hear that. But one of the most powerful things I think that has gotten me through is every single day I say, you know what? I am a disease repellent.
Exactly.
I do. I say it out of my mouth. Right. And I have my students say, I said, listen, time to say it. I am a disease repellent. And so, and I just listen, faith is it. That's all I know to get through this here.
Right.
Because it is, when I do think about it, I'm not in a good place with this.
Right. And that's the thing. Now I'm gonna say this. Not saying that, right? Anxiety is based on our thoughts and our perceptions and what we think and how we continue to ruminate on thoughts. And we continue to let the negative thoughts come in or just linger. Not necessarily come in, because they're going to come in anyway.
Yeah.
Those lingering thoughts is only going to get worse. So you had to find a way to protect yourself, use some coping strategies, do some things that are going to help you, like exercise, walk, get some sun. Positive affirmations. I am a disease repellent. That's a positive affirmation to make you feel secure in being in the place that you are. So we have to speak positivity. We have to speak prolific thinking and prolific thoughts for ourselves to kind of maintain and get ourselves to move forward.
And I will say this, one of the things that I thought was so important and impactful for us in one of my schools. I'm in two schools, so you can imagine I'm going in two different buildings in a week's time.
Yeah.
In one of my schools, I felt very safe because the administrator, number one, brought me boxes of Clorox wipes, masks, shields, Lysol spray, has the desk shields for the children.
Right.
As Eva said, leave the doors open. I mean, everything that he could possibly do in that situation, and in there with us. I mean, it's not. It didn't make us feel like, okay, we're just in here by ourselves, but in there with us doing it, and I commend him for that because he made me, I know, feel comfortable, and many other teachers in that building. So that's important as well for those who are in leadership. If you would just do those things to help the staff or the teachers feel comfortable in an environment that we have no control over.
That's big. That's huge. That's controlling what you can't control.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who these kids have been exposed to once they leave the school. So therefore, when you come in, okay, at your desk, we have a nice little petition for you to keep you safe.
Mhm.
The teacher has a petition for her to keep herself safe. So everybody feels safe.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, it's interesting that you say that, right? Felt safety is major across the board.
Mm.
You talk about foster care, you talk about kids that's been adopted, you talk about kids that have been neglected. Them feeling safe and feeling comfortable allows them to flourish, allows them to grow, allows them to relax and think, their brains to work, and the education process to work for them. In a scenario where the total opposite scenario, where there are no petitions, there are no masks, there's no hand sanitizer provided. Okay, they provide hand sanitizer. That may be the only thing they provide. They use some hand sanitizer, but you're still breathing and you're not making them wear masks. So how does that feel? Uncertainty, scary, all day.
All day.
All day.
Going in the bathrooms. I take Lysol in the bathroom. I mean,
Right.
but that's why
yourself.
You've got to protect yourself. And so I pray for those like your wife and others who are in districts that are not taking those precautions. I will say I'm thankful because our district is.
Right.
That's one thing that I have comfort in knowing that they're doing what they can do.
So let me ask now, because you said that's one school. They have all the things in place. What about the other one?
Now, the other one has a few things, but not as much. So the administrator has a choice as to how they're going to spend that money.
I got you.
Are they going to spend that money to get those things that are needed? We even have, like in the school I was talking about, there are thermometer stations where the children can walk up and put their head, So it's each school does also have their different things that they're doing. Right. Yeah, but the overall district, the district has put those things and monies in place to make sure that people are safe as much as they can.
Right. That's key.
Yeah.
And that's key to them because that's excellent. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Now, but there's, moving from that, the anxiety that teachers are feeling, let's talk about, this is something else that I've been hearing, oh my gosh, in the past 2 or 3 weeks. I've heard that word anxiety come up so many times, but particularly in the African American community and with Black males. And this is the thing that has really bothered me. Even in conversations talking with younger males, older males, is that men are not taught to express what's going on with them emotionally.
Right.
And so when they're not taught to express that, then the mind breaks down, the body breaks down, because everything starts in the mind, to be honest with you. So if that mind is not right, everything else starts breaking down. So let's talk about the African American male.
Okay.
And what is going on with that? Why do we see so much anxiety in the Black community?
In the Black men and Black men in general, specifically?
Yeah, in general.
A couple of things, man. First of all, we last year we witnessed the murder of a Black man at the hands of a police officer. That was anxiety producing within itself. But for 8 years prior, there have been significant murders or things that have happened at the hands of the police already prior to that happening. Right. Losing jobs, not being able to take care of your family, not knowing how you're going to provide. There are a lot of different things. In terms of the Black men, our role as Black men, as husbands, as fathers, they encompass a lot. They encompass a lot. And if you weren't prepared or you don't know how to understand and regulate your emotions, then it can overflow into you trying to control your home. You could try to control your, not necessarily control your kids, but parent in an effective way. So and as I mentioned before, like people that Black men that have grown up without their fathers, they're dedicated to staying and being a positive role model, a father, a husband, or both if that's what they choose. Even in that, they get to a certain point where they feel like they're doing the right thing, but they're not certain if they're doing the right thing or not, because they didn't have that role model. They didn't see it. So a lot of things that, as kids or as babies, the main way that we learn is by observation and observing how people do things. So if you don't have that role model, if you didn't have anybody that you watch that could provide a positive role model for you, a positive way of doing these things, then you grow up with I won't say wrong, but maybe misinformed to a large extent, how you handle certain situations. So as you grow up and as you become a man, then you handle those situations based on what you knew or what you saw. But is that the best way to handle those situations? So you grow up asking yourself or feeling inadequate sometimes. Am I doing the right thing? I'm trying to make all the right steps, but and then the fear of just a roadblock or a traffic stop, I may die. So it's like there are a lot of different things that go on. There are a lot of different things that goes on in men's head and men's minds that are just everyday natural things that cause anxiety. But we're designed, and we've been dealing with environmental trauma, I would say.
Can you explain environmental trauma for those who do not know what that means?
So if you grew up in a urban city environment where you had to fight, you heard gunshot, you were exposed to domestic violence, you heard all of that, what I'm saying, like gang violence, you've grown up in a situation that was more emotionally stimulating, but also emotionally blunting, because you can't walk around expressing your emotions. You can't walk around with your feelings on your shoulder, because at any point you could be getting jumped. You could be considered a punk.
And see, that's
so
that's what I have, but that's a
yeah.
I can't get the word for it right now, but that's another thing that I haven't agreed with in a conversation with a lot of Black males, or how Black males were reared. Right. You cannot show your emotions.
You can't show weakness.
You can't show, but you know what? We're all weak at some point.
Right.
So that's a human attribute.
It's a human thing, but it's not anything that's embraced by Black men. Let's say that.
And that's an issue though, Ernest.
It is an issue, but you have to get to the point where you recognize your weaknesses, your flaws, and you have to be willing to do something about it and make some changes. But that's a self-analysis. And if you're not willing to be honest with yourself, then therein lies a whole nother problem. We see our flaws easier because we know what they are. We know where we're weak. We know what we struggle with. But I don't necessarily mean I'm going to tell you. So in terms of, for me in therapy, it's giving people that safe place to actually come and actually talk and share that information. Then we can come up with a plan and we can talk about how do we move forward. I benefit because I am a Black man. I understand racism. I'm from Alabama, so I understand racism.
Oh yeah,
at a level. So I grew up in an urban community, so I'm used to. I had been used to fighting in those type of environments. So for me to get to this point, luckily for me, as you know, Marcy, I've always been a good communicator.
Yeah.
But you also know I was a little verbally aggressive when I was young. I cursed people out. I was a little verbally aggressive, but that was who I was, and that's how I was to help me carry myself through the streets and how I now kind of navigated life.
Mm-hmm.
But on this end, like I understand, you can't stop your emotions from flowing.
No.
You can't blunt your feelings because it's going to come out in a different way. It's going to come out in your body, some type of disease, some type of feeling medically, emotionally. You could be drinking too much. You could be using too much marijuana. Like, it's going to come out in some type of
It's
way.
coming somewhere.
It's going to affect your life in some type of way. So we have to be honest. We have to be open about it. We have to encourage men, like, go seek help, and at this point, there are enough Black therapists, Black male therapists, Black female therapists, Hispanic male and female therapists. Like, there's somebody that looks like you that provides the service that I provide that you can go talk to, and you can actually be honest with them and kind of see, like, how do I move forward?
Right.
Talk about how you were mistreated or you were neglected or nobody really listened to you as a child. So maybe sometimes you grew up making all of your own decisions. That's rough. That's rough. So you made some mistakes, but it's okay. How do we correct that? You were young, you didn't know. So now that you know, what do we do? How do we move forward?
And that's the thing, in my own life, I'm constantly doing self-evaluation.
Right.
Matter of fact, it's a daily practice.
Right.
But when I get home, I say, now, did I do that good? Did I not? The things that worked.
Right.
I said, okay, I keep that. But the things that did not work, I need to not do that anymore.
Right.
And so how do you teach people how to go through the process of self-evaluation? Because we should be doing it on a daily basis.
Right. For myself, I do it on a daily basis, but I really do it yearly. Like, every year, I go back and look at what I did well and what I didn't do so well. I pick things that I can work on in the next year to improve. We need to be, if we're not evolving, then we're going to stay stagnant.
Right.
That's life. You have to understand that. So also, on a daily basis, but I think I really focus on teaching people, like, how do you make decisions? How do you make good decisions? Like, weigh your options. Like, what are the advantages? What's the disadvantages? Like, what do you really want to do? Is that best decision for you? Or is that the best decision for your family? Is that the best decision all the way around? So and then after that, like, you have to pray about some of the decisions that you make as well. But the spirituality piece is very important, but that's not something that I kind of give everybody, because if they're not comfortable talking about spirituality, so I kind of leave that out. But for me, faith is everything, and that's how I move. That's who I am. That's how I get to do what I do.
And you said that, and that's me too. Because when we're talking about the weakness, every morning I said, "Look, God, I'm weak.
Right.
I need your strength." I say that every day.
There's certain things that's just way beyond your control.
Yeah, I'm weak. Listen.
Yeah.
I can't do this without you, God. I said this every day. Listen, I cannot.
Correct.
So I admit, I know that I'm in agreement with God on the stance that I have. Yes, He's given us power and authority. Now, I do know when I walk up in that building,
I know what I'm gonna do. Dr. Marcy gonna come up and do what she got to do.
I know what I'm gonna do, but I'm letting you know that I'm weak next to God.
Right.
I can only do anything but through His grace and mercy.
Right.
So I think some of our men have a problem even saying that, or feeling comfortable enough, because sometimes now I'm not going to put it all on the men. Women, we do not provide a safe place for a man to be vulnerable enough to share his emotions.
Correct.
And so that's another thing we need to look at. Do we provide that? Do we provide it for our sons?
Well, I think that's a communication piece. That's a communication in terms of couples and learning how to communicate and understanding how your communication is going to affect your spouse's ability to communicate openly. and being aggressive and your aggressive communication, then it doesn't give room sometimes for your spouse to be open. Are you belittling them? Are you downgrading them? Are you shutting them down when they start talking? You know, then they take a passive role, and then therefore they feel like they're not being heard. So then therefore they just stop talking, period. So understanding how communication works within a relationship is very important.
Yeah.
That we deal with in terms of couples counseling as well.
And that's with any relationship, whether it's
any relationship
with your children, with your significant other, your spouse, your siblings. Yeah. There has to be a point where you listen. And, you know, I have family members. You can't get a word in.
Right.
You know, and those are the people, you know, you're going to
know it all. They know everything.
So, you know, we all got somebody in the family, let the truth be known.
Right.
That you don't communicate with well. And, right. You know, I remember when I was married, I'm not married anymore, right. But I couldn't figure out, I said, now I'm a strong communicator. I communicate with people all day long. Now, which one of us got a problem?
Right.
You know, because I'm like,
I know I can communicate.
I know I can communicate. I know that. I know people. I know how to communicate. I know how to listen. So, you know, we have to step back sometimes and say, okay, am I communicating right for this person?
I think one of the things is that people don't recognize how important, okay, the listening part of communication is so important. It's more important than the talking. And people don't take time to really listen and either maybe play back, like, okay, do I hear you saying this? And paraphrase to give it back to them to make sure that you hear what you hear. And then that's where we can have a conversation, because based on the scenario, what I say to you may not really be what I truly mean. Like, I can be upset. So if I say something and I'm upset, the same words, because I'm upset, have a different meaning, and it feels different.
Right.
If I say the same thing and I'm calm, then I may get a calm response. I may get the response I'm looking for. But because I'm upset, if I say one thing, then you're going to take it as defensively, or that I'm coming at you in a way that may not be my intent. And that's one of the biggest things, like being intentional in what you do, being intentional in what you say. You know, how do you present this information to somebody, and how do they process it? And put it in a way where they're even willing and open to processing. You know?
Yeah, you know, I've done a lot of research on multiple intelligence of people, and one of those things that has helped me also, and I know you've heard about it, is the 5 love languages of Gary Chapman, right?
Yes.
So now when I'm talking with people for an extensive amount of time, you know, I have to get to know the person. I'm in search of, what is their love language? How do they communicate? You know, do they know mine? So getting to know people and how they communicate and when they're hurting. I told some of my students, I said, one thing that you use your expression for is how you're communicating your hurts,
right?
How you're communicating your joys.
Right.
Expression is not just something you do with art or talking or whatever. It is also attached to how you relate information to people.
Right.
And it's attached to your daily lifestyle. So I'm in search of that a lot when I'm talking to people or getting to know them. What is their form of expression? How do they like to do this?
Right.
It's not going to be my way.
Right.
So until we, you know, get to that point, we may have communication problems.
Correct. And with couples, I use the 5 love languages a lot because some people know. It's often the woman may be familiar and the man may not have any idea of the love languages at all. So I sit them down and do the test with both of them so they can understand both of their love languages. And then we go through the fact of understanding. You might give them gifts, but they really want quality time. They just want
right.
You know, so because you're upset because you gave them gifts, you bought them a car that didn't make her happy, then you're like, well, she don't appreciate nothing. Well, no, that's just not her love language.
Not
So
her love
she just wants you to
language.
spend quality time with her. Just sit on the couch and just talk to her. Maybe rub her feet. It may be touch. It could be, you know, understand their love languages. And once we can get through that and understand that, then it could bring a different level of intimacy, a different level of connection that's going to only make the relationship grow. You know?
And I really think that will free up some of this anxiety, you know, and I'm staying there with that anxiety because, like I said, I have been hearing that word for the past all of August, I think.
Right.
People were using it loosely, you know.
Well, just like now, like after 2 years, a year and a half, I say 2 years, but a year and a half, you know, of a changed way of life, you know, Corona, it is anxiety producing because you, like I said, you don't know, a lot of unknowns, you know, but at the same time, a lot of couples have spent more time together because of the COVID than they had spent in years. Like it got to the point where if your relationship is bad, your job becomes an avenue of escape.
Ah.
So when you can't escape and just go to your job and get things and just escape the situation that you've been trying not to deal with, and you're forced to sit in the house and like, okay, let's talk about this. Or you're together, so eventually you're going to have to talk about some of the things because it's going to boil over. And once it boils over, then you got a lot of people that's going through divorces, a lot of people that's like looking at their relationships like, man, this is not really what I wanted, or it's not really what I signed up for. You know, so a lot of people are going to counseling because they're trying to figure out like, what do we do? Like, you know, and that's one of the things that you have to really ask. Like, are we trying to reconcile a marriage, or are we trying to work on co-parenting, or how are we trying to do this? What is our goal of doing therapy? What are we here for? You know, so
and yeah, that's why I wanted to talk a little bit about that way of communicating with people regarding their love languages, because if you can get there, that can kind of free up some of that anxiety.
Right.
Because you're actually meeting the need, the emotional need of the person through communicating with love languages.
And not only just meeting them, you're deciding to give them what they need. You're prioritizing them.
It's a sacrifice.
It's a sacrifice. You're going to sacrifice anyway. You're sacrificing whether you do it or not. Yeah. So you'd rather sacrifice by choice and give them what they need, and then therefore the relationship can become better. It could be more loving. It could develop into what you really want it to be, you know. And it does break down some of those walls because they feel as if you're there for them or you're focused on them, you know, and therefore you start getting some of the things that you need, you know. So it's a give and take, you know. If you prioritize her, then she will prioritize you.
Now, let me ask you, I should have asked you this at the beginning. Define anxiety.
Anxiety is a feeling, it's an angst or a nervousness within that something is not right, that there's a fear that something could go wrong, or a fear of not being able to control a scenario or control a situation. So something's beyond your control, and because you don't know how to approach it, what to do with it, then it brings this nervousness, this unsettledness in your body.
And so if we could boil it down, we could boil it down to the word fear.
Fear, yeah.
It's fear.
It's fear.
And God has not given us a spirit of fear.
Right.
So I wanted to point that out.
But you got to know that.
You got to know
You got to know that, though. Like, you know, knowing and doing and understanding is three different things.
Yeah.
I know it, but do I live based on that? Do I walk based on that? I understand it to a different level because I walk in this faith. So then therefore, when I move, I know I'm protected. That's three different things. You know,
you're right.
And I think that's just spiritual growth. You know, when you get to that point where you do know it on all levels and you do understand it, things are much better for you. you know. And
So
I'm not gonna sit here and say spiritually I'm where I want to be.
yeah, we're all growing.
I'm still growing. Yeah, and I'm still
we're all
growing to
growing.
be who I want to be. But I do recognize the and I tell people on the regular, like if my parents, spirituality was one thing my parents and grandparents gave me, man, that I thank them for.
Lord, yes.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So
yes.
without the spiritual connection, my life wouldn't be where it is. My life wouldn't be nowhere close to what it is now, which also gives me the understanding. I appreciate the knowledge to go and get the training and the understanding that I have now in terms of mental health and how we prevent that, how I present that to the African American community, because not only do I help people, but my goal is to help the community be better. We have to heal. Like it's so much that we hadn't talked about. It's so many generations of hurt and
yes.
Yeah, just because they wouldn't tell the truth about things, and it's unfortunate, but that's what we are, and people are hurting because things that may have happened to them in childhood, things that may have happened to them as teenagers, So understanding that and trying to provide a safe place, for people to talk and heal through therapy, man, that's just my purpose, God has given everybody a purpose, and I think it's not,
Let me ask you this. So would you say that the prescription for anxiety is a spiritual one or a medical one or both?
You got to go with where people are, You can get the service, you can get counseling, and we can talk about exactly what's going on, and we can help you heal. We can put some things in place, positive affirmations, recognizing exactly what it is that causes your anxiety for you. Like, what are your fears? Let's identify your fears. Spirituality definitely would help, but if you weren't spiritual for 35 years before you went to counseling, I don't think it's going to automatically just happen. And that's just reality, but I can't help you recognize where your fear is coming from. I can't help you whether anxiety, what's producing your anxiety. I can give you some remedies of how we deal with this on a daily basis so you can move past the anxiety and you can start functioning, But hopefully within that, I will be able to give you some things that you can use to help work on your spirituality, because about mind, body, and soul. Like we got to we have to be.
They're triune.
Soul, right? We got to be conscious of the soul. Like, so what are you? What is your belief system? It's a conversation. Like, what is your belief system? So when things get overwhelming for you, who do you go to? When you can't go to your parents, you can't go to your friends. Like, who do you go to? And I'll even I've had conversations with atheists, like. Even
I have had some,
well, they even admit, like, I pray. I may not call him God, but it's a higher being. There's a deity of some form that I know is bigger than me. All right, so you recognize something as being more powerful than you, then therefore that could be a spiritual guider, regardless of how you name and what you call them.
Right.
Yeah. So I just think that understanding and that knowing, even in AA, the 12-step program is based on spiritual principles.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
I've talked to some people that's been through that program, and they say that,
Right. But that's one of the biggest things. I want to say, I don't know exactly what step it is, but conforming to a higher power greater than you and recognizing that you're weak and incapable of handling this disease is a major step for a lot of them, because of the fact that they have not identified a higher being. They have not identified their spiritual source for their power. So that's a huge step. Yeah. So
wow, that's rich. That's rich. And before we get off here, if you could give anybody here who's dealing with anxiety some inspiration or encouragement, what would it be?
There's always a brighter tomorrow. There's always a better day. Be open to sharing, and go get the help that you need. If you need some help, go look for the help. Go seek the help that you need. One of the things as Black people, man, we're always trying to just keep moving forward, just keep going, just keep going. What happened when you crash? What happened when you run into that wall?
Ooh.
You know, because nothing's designed to just keep going. No car, no boat, nothing is designed to just keep going with all this pressure. So look yourself in the mirror, look yourself eye to eye, and be honest. If you need help, go seek the help.
Go get it.
Go get it. Myself,
Go get it from Ernest Benson. And on that note,
ilifecounseling.org.
I was about to say.
But I'm gonna tell you this also. Not myself, not only me. I'm also in a collection of brothers, man. So it's the Counseling Brothers of Atlanta. So it's thecboa.com. The Counseling Brothers of Atlanta, and it's probably 40 or 50 of us. So I mean, being in connection with a group of powerful clinicians, Black men that's really trying to do something, that's really trying to change some communities and put some things in place, because we understand the challenges and the stigmas of mental health and how it has affected us thus far. And we're trying to do something to move forward, but definitely reach out. Again, mylifecounseling.org. My number is 678-903-2156. You can call me anytime. And if you're willing to talk, I'm willing to listen. And together we can, find a solution. That's me.
Well, listen, y'all heard that. Y'all go listen. This one right here is gonna keep it real with you now. That's call them up and tell them what you want.
Hey, Dr. Marcy, I appreciate you. Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate you, Ernest. And listen, like I say every week, if you want to be a part of this discussion on the connecting point, shoot me an email at integrativearts@att.net. Look up Dr. Marcy's Connections, Instagram, Twitter. Look up Integrative Arts Creations. You either go Integrative Arts Creations or Dr. Marcy's Connections. Just look it up. We also have a Connecting Point for Creators group on Facebook. It's just a group of creators of all kinds who are there. We celebrate each other. We support each other. We promote each other. And we get words of inspiration there. So look us up on Facebook. Come on and join us. We'd love to have you. The Connecting Point for Creators group. This show airs on YouTube. It airs on Instagram TV on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. And now it also airs on WBCN TV on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock. So come on, when you see the videos, click like and share it. And then go, after you do that, go and schedule an appointment for Ernest.
I love it. Yes, go see me. I got it.
Ernest, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I love y'all. Here together, hey, and you. Okay.